Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Emerge Detour Essentials Live. We are in season 4 and this is episode number 3. We're super excited. We have some amazing guests waiting backstage. As usual, we want to make sure for those who are joining us for the first time, you know where you are. You are at Emerge Detour Essentials Live. I'm going to introduce you to the Emerge Trio in a minute. But as you're logging on, we want you to encourage others to join this episode. It's going to be super, super great. We're going to be looking at mindfulness. I know this is a word we hear all the time, but we're not really 100% sure what it means. So we have some experts who are here that are going to really break it down for us. So get your friends, join the party, ensure that you share the link. And if you are joining us for the first time, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this episode with others that you think will appreciate and enjoy this mindfulness journey that we're about to go on with our guests that are waiting backstage. So, as usual, we don't want to assume that you all know who we are. And so we want to do a quick introduction. My name is Naomi Garrick. I'm a personal branding coach and a PR consultant. I'm also the founder of Garrick Communications. But essentially, I help individuals and brands to stand out in a very noisy world by understanding how to get clarity on who you are, knowing what your unique value is, and then, of course, how to communicate to your ideal audience.
Thanks, Nai. Hi, everybody. Welcome. I am Kathy Goodall, and I am a leadership and growth coach. I am also a connector of brands, businesses, and people. Welcome, and we're super excited about tonight's show. Like Nai said, there's just so much in store for you tonight. I don't know where Rushy disappeared to, Nai.
That's fine, but we know Rushy is going to join back in a minute. So we can go over to the comments, and I'm seeing Auntie Normadel has become a regular viewer on the show. And I'm sure that she's excited for tonight because she's also an auntie to these two ladies that are going to be joining us shortly. Rushy, welcome.
So we couldn't just introduce me.
No, we wouldn't dare. We wouldn't dare.
I wouldn't try. Because you have to do the voice and everything.
Exactly.
Yeah, I need this mindfulness session today. I told you my hustle was not today. I couldn't get it. Introduce me, Lanai.
Okay, let me try my best. Okay, to the bottom of the screen, we have Rochelle Cameron, also known as Adrenaline Rush. She is the founder of Prescient Consulting, and she is also a member of the Emerge Trio, and she is a practicing attorney at law. She does consulting with large and small firms who are hoping to grow their business and to also increase their brand presence and visibility and corporate structure. Rochelle.
Like it,
what Catherine said?
Well, look who decided to join us tonight, ladies. Gabby is back. Alicia is back. Alicia,
sorry. And Rochelle also reigns from Lucky Hill, St. Mary.
St. Mary. Anyway, we really have a very exciting show tonight, so we need to get things going.
Welcome back, Gabby Goodall. Nice to have you. So what we want to know, we always ask this question, right? We want to know where you're joining us from in the chat. I know we have some Jamaicans in the house, and especially because of our guests, we have some visiting residents from overseas joining us tonight. So please let us know in the comments where you're joining us from, if this is your first time on Emerge Detour Essentials Live, and then we're going to go straight into the show. So while you're dropping those comments, last week we had a really great show, and it was all around mental health awareness, especially because the month of May is Mental Health Awareness Month. So we had a really necessary conversation with Daniel Terralong and Dr. Jordan Eaton about managing depression and anxiety. So if you missed it, it's definitely one of the episodes to watch, along with everything else in season 1, 2, and 3. And so whether you're actually dealing with depression or anxiety, or if someone you know is dealing with those things, it is really a great episode to understand what some of the signs are. And one of the things that was really important that came out of that episode is just to remember that you're not alone, right? This last year has been a brand new experience for everybody, and we're all not okay. And that's okay. So check out the episode. There were some really great tips, great feedback, even in our comment section. And of course, share it with someone that you think could actually benefit from that. So today, we're still along that path of focusing on our mental wellness. But tonight, we're going to be focusing on the power of mindfulness and surfing the waves of the pandemic. Over to you, Rashid.
Thank you, guys. And you know that when we had done our very first Detour Essentials, it was on mindfulness. You remember?
Yes.
Do you remember my skepticism? Like, what is mindfulness really? Is it scientific? What is mindfulness? You know, all of this mindfulness. But God is a good God. So He's put me in a place that I've had to think about mindfulness a lot and get connected. And tonight, ladies and gentlemen, I see New York in the house. I see Florida. I see Connecticut. I see Jamaica and Cayman. Welcome, welcome. The Soul Care Sisters, Rain and Sky Jarrett. You heard those names right. Rain and Sky Jarrett of Transcend LLC help parent leaders deal with their stress level and learn to live more. They combine their expertise in brain science, mindfulness, social and emotional development, and leadership maturity. These powerhouse sisters. And I know when you saw the flyers and you saw these beautiful women, you're like, what are they going to tell us about mindfulness? Man, they're powerhouse sisters. They will provide us with some life skills that unlock deep, life-challenging personal transformation. So stop what you're doing right now and call up your friend them, send them the link, because everybody's got to be a part of this. Now, Sky Jarrett is actually an executive coach and pioneer 21st century leader. She has a passion for unlocking human excellence and specializes in using cutting-edge brain science to help leaders develop the mental fitness to more easily identify the barriers to their success and crush them. As a leadership and organization development consultant at one of the world's largest consulting firms, Sky has 12 plus years of specialized expertise in large scale transformation. She's also, by the way, with all of these things, a certified instructor, advocate, and change agent for mindfulness, and has been instrumental in bringing mindfulness to Fortune 500 companies. Wow. She's on the Emerge stage tonight. Tell your friend them, Disney crowd. Educator and subject matter expert on social and emotional learning and development, inclusion and diversity, mindful parenting, I'm going to need that, and mindfulness in schools. With over 10 years of experience in the classroom, Rain has extensive knowledge and specialized expertise in curriculum design and instruction in the areas of culture, race relations, sex, and gender. Rain is passionate about spreading mindfulness in the classroom and arming children and adults with the skills to build resilience and navigate life's challenges. We get into leadership, we get into organizational transformation, we get into parenting, all on our Emerge stage. We're gonna get up from one of them, we're gonna make up nice. Rain and Sky Jarrett are here.
Let me tell you, oh my God, Rochelle, let me tell you, darling.
You just want to put her in your pocket, right?
Sorry,
all introductions.
Engagements, every introduction. Rochelle, you're on. Thank you very much. Hello.
Rochelle is our secret weapon. I love
it. Hi, ladies. Hi, everyone.
Happy to have you on the show.
Thank you.
We're
so
really
much
excited to have you.
Yes.
For those of you that don't know, we've actually been trying to get these ladies from pre-COVID, but their schedules are so fully booked that we had to wait 2 years to get them on Emerge. But we're so thrilled to have you ladies on tonight. And there's just so much to cover, so we want to get right into it. So Rain, you are an educator, and Sky, you're a leadership and organizational development consultant. So tell us how did you two get on this mindfulness journey? And of course, explain to our viewers what mindfulness actually is.
Wow.
I'll start. For me, I was finding life very difficult for a long time. A few years ago, I was really just trying to struggling to sort of find my way through. I was in a very unhappy, unhealthy relationship. Parenting was also very difficult for me. I often found it very hard and very overwhelming. It's a beautiful gift. It's a blessing to be a parent, but for me, it wasn't fun. And I thought, there has to be an easier way. And at the time, Sky was going through her coaching certification and had started to develop a mindfulness practice. So unbeknownst to me, she was sort of coaching me through these very difficult, challenging times. And, I got the benefit of being introduced to mindfulness. I think we've also had a very interesting journey, Sky and I. We've both experienced trauma individually, but also collectively as a family. And through our journey, we've found ways of equipping ourselves with life skills that have allowed us to not only survive, but to thrive. Building a business during a pandemic, the loss of our dad unexpectedly, and then 6 months later, our mom being diagnosed with lung and brain cancer. So it's these challenges that really sort of showed me and introduced this path to mindfulness, which Sky sort of introduced to me. That's sort of my journey. And so I found a way to introduce core components of mindfulness in things that I do on an everyday basis, like working and parenting, for example.
Awesome.
And for me, I was working for one of the largest consulting firms in the world, a consulting firm that prides itself on high performance. And so you put me, this overachieving perfectionist, into that kind of an environment. It created a perfect storm for stress and anxiety and overwhelm and burnout. And I was like, no, man, this is intense. Like, how am I going to manage? And I tried meditation and I was like, okay, where's the calm? This is not working. Like, and X me on the meditation. And then learned about mindfulness and understood that it wasn't about just achieving calm or getting to that level of Zen, but I could just simply notice what's happening right now. And then I was like, oh, this is interesting. Oh, what curious mind I have. Oh, this is really interesting. And just bringing that sense of curiosity to what I was experiencing, I realized a distinction between mindfulness and just general meditation. And so that's where I started to practice. And I literally felt like I had tapped into the secrets of the universe and wanted to stand on the mountaintop and be like, people, there is a different way. Like, we don't have chaotic, haphazard life. Like, there is an alternative. And I was determined, having experienced the profound benefits of mindfulness in this very high stress environment, to bring mindfulness to the organization. So it took me a year to make the business case, but we brought mindfulness to this large global consulting firm. And then I got certified because I wanted to deepen my own learning, my own understanding, and wanted to scale, like scream from the mountaintop. And then I just finished my second, because I'm such a nerd and overachiever, second certification, which was a 2-year program through Berkeley to even deepen my practice and become a more successful teacher in mindfulness. So Rain also spoke to the fact of how mindfulness has supported us in navigating our dad's passing, mommy's diagnosis of cancer, having to move from DC and imagine 3 strong personalities, 4 if you include Noah, 4 yes, living under one roof in a pandemic, right? And then people are genuinely curious, like, okay, how are you guys not just surviving this, but thriving at doing this while building a business during this stressful time? And the question was really applause for cause, like, okay, how are we doing it? And being able to synthesize our learnings and what our journey has enabled for us and package mindfulness in a way that people can digest applying their own life.
Oh.
So on,
Okay, so
on that note, what is mindfulness?
right, what is mindfulness?
I know. All right, so let me just say this. Trying to define mindfulness is like trying to define love. It's one of those things where like you can have a cognitive understanding, but until you experience it, you really don't understand, one, what it actually is, and two, how powerful it actually is. So every week I do this huge workshop with 150 leaders from Fortune 500 companies, and I do a guided practice. And many of them are like, wait, what just happened? Like, what was that? Like, can we do that again? Like, can you tell me more what you just did? Because of the level of calm and stillness that can come from it. So it's one of those abstract things, but I'll attempt to define, right? So one of the things that is important to really understand when you think about the power and the essence of mindfulness is one thing, is that it's both a technique, it's a practice, right? It's a skill that you can cultivate, but it's also an artful way of living, right? We think of mindfulness as conscious living. It's bringing an intention to cultivate a level of awareness, to understand and really tune into what's happening right now. What am I thinking? What am I feeling? What am I experiencing? So fundamentally, we can think of mindfulness as the practice of paying attention. But it's not just paying attention. It's paying attention and it's noticing what you're experiencing, but with a specific quality of attention, right? It's this attitude of non-judgment and curiosity, right? That can really help us to expand our tolerance. How many times do we wake up and we feel stressed and we feel overwhelmed or we feel anxious, and then we get anxious about the fact that we're anxious, and we have feelings that we have, right? We have negative feelings and we're like, oh no, I'm feeling burnt out. Oh my gosh, and we get overwhelmed because we're burnt out. So mindfulness allows us to say, oh, I have these warning signs. The light in my car is going off. And what is it telling me? Oh, I'm tired, I'm exhausted, I'm stressed. Okay, well, how am I going to respond to this level of stress? It gives us this resourcefulness of really meeting and being with challenges. The other important thing, because we are living with information overload, right?
Yeah.
Amen.
Moment of truth. How many of you are listening to this thing, scrolling on Instagram, listening, right? Watching TV in the background. Like we have so many things happening all at once.
Yep.
So you can think of mindfulness as if you're walking into a dark closet with a flashlight. And you, having the flashlight in your hand, are deciding, what do I want to focus on? So it's the skillful use of your attention. So amidst the distractedness and the chaos, what am I going to choose to give my attention to? There is so much power and agency in that, right? Especially when you think about the fact that so many of these social media platforms have engineers, hundreds of engineers trying to figure out ways of capturing our attention. The captains of our attention and say, okay, I know you're trying to distract me, but I'm the captain here, right? And I'm going to choose wisely what gets my attention. Flashlight, dark closet, I choose what I want to focus on. Let me pause there and see. One of the things that Rain likes to say is, it's the sweet spot of life. So I like this, share maybe your definition of mindfulness.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because mindfulness is sort of on the cusp of becoming a household name, right? It's entering the healthcare system, major organizations. It's being integrated in the culture of companies, Fortune 500, law enforcement, educational institutions all across the world. And people define mindfulness very differently. And I think Sky did a good job of sort of providing some context. Sky can be very convoluted also. She's a very complex thinker and she loves to talk. And, I'm an educator, so I try and extract, break it down, simplify. So just to reiterate in very simplistic terms, mindfulness is essentially a way of training the mind. What are you training your mind to do? You're training your mind to pay attention. And like Sky said, not just pay attention in any particular way, but paying attention with intention, with curiosity, and without judgment. What are we paying attention to? We're paying attention to our feelings, our sensations, our thoughts, sort of the patterns of our behaviors. We're paying attention to our thinking patterns, all the things that sort of come together to make up our experience, right? From minute to minute, hour to hour, day to day. So it's a presence that we're bringing to our life. And we think of it as overriding our automatic approach to life, right? Because the truth is, well, thank you. The truth is that we don't go through life mindfully, right? We're not used to paying skillful attention to what it is that we're doing. As Sky said, we're existing in this attention economy where things and social media are vying for our attention. And what we know is that from studies, from research, 47% of the time we are not present. What does that mean? It means that our minds are not focused on what we are doing in the moment almost half the time, right? Usually we're on autopilot, we're going through the motions of whatever it is that we're doing, eating, working, talking, dealing with your kids, all of them at the same time. And at the same time, we're also lost in our thoughts, right? Our mind is a very, very busy place to be, and we're busy rehashing the past, or we're rehearsing and thinking about the future, all the things to do, or all the things we didn't get to do. And so our culture sort of lacks presence, right? If we could all live skillfully as monks, we wouldn't have the problems that we have. But that's not realistic. So it's really an Eastern Buddhist practice. And it's a way of going back to a very simplistic but very sweet way of living. Like Sky said, I like to call mindfulness, the sweet spot of life. If you think about it in a sort of hard context, it's, when you hear your favorite song and you get lost in the song, you get lost in the melody, lost in the lyrics, lost in experiencing the song, and somebody says, hello, where are you? I'm being present. I'm being present in what I'm experiencing right now. And the feeling, the sweet feeling that you get from that, right? And that used to be our way of life centuries ago, maybe. But again, our culture, our busyness culture has really veered us away from that. So it's a reckoning. It's a going back to a way of life that really serves us in a better way and allows us to live really, truly our best life.
I love that.
Yeah.
And Rochelle, scientifically, from a brain science perspective, because our brains are wired for efficiency, right? We have a tendency, a natural tendency to operate on autopilot, right? When you think about it, when you put on your underwear or a pair of pants in the morning, do you stop to think about which leg goes in first? No. 95% of the things that we think, feel, and do are on autopilot, right? It's an opportunity for us to wake up from that default mode of life and have more efficiency and be more choiceful in how we want to move through the day. Multitasking has now become a way of living, a way of working, a way of parenting, right? We're cooking while doing homework with the child, with the TV on, because we want to stay up to the time with the news. And so we're wired for multitasking, or we convince ourselves that we're multitasking. Mindfulness, as Rain said, is a way of training the mind to not do the things that are not healthy for us anymore. And that includes our way of thinking, our ways of feeling, or ways of moving through life, and the bad habits that we might want to just get rid of. It's time to get rid of, right? And I'll give you an example. When the pandemic hit and Mommy had just done brain surgery, and I'm in the middle of a meeting, and Rain comes and knocks on her. She's like, where's the fever gone? I'm like, what? The fever gone. Mommy has a fever. Long story short, we thought she had COVID, right? So I am the overachieving perfectionist. So my mental tendency is to plan. Plan A, plan B, plan C, plan D. Worst case scenario, If worst case scenario come, I got it, right? Helpful because you can plan ahead and you're resourceful in that way. Harmful because you can quickly spiral down into a deep dark hole that is not helpful, right? We call the doctor, I'm driving to her office, and my mind goes to where? Okay, what if she has COVID? If she has COVID, then we have to take her to the hospital. Okay, which hospital? Okay, but wait, if we take her to the hospital, what is she going to need? But wait, if we take her to the hospital, it's COVID, so we won't be able to see her. What if she dies? We'll never see her again. Not helpful. But I could bring a level of awareness to saying, okay, Sky, like, Alicia says, I have all the plans. Stop. You've gone to the extent that's helpful. You now know which hospital you're going to take your mom to. You now know all the things we're going to pack for her. But this is where we stop, and I can pull myself out of that trance and focus on, no, I'm just driving to the doctor's office, one step at a time. And I
one step at a time.
Right?
Yeah.
Z, Alicia says, I'm right with you, girl, but I have to pull myself back, right? Yeah.
Wow.
So earlier you were talking about how mindfulness helps with stress, right? We've all experienced stress. Before COVID, we experienced stress. And since COVID, since the pandemic, it has just been multiplied. It's been heightened. So what are some of the problems that you've encountered, and how do we resolve that with mindfulness?
Well, I'd like to sort of set some context because you're absolutely right, Catherine. The stress culture predated the pandemic, right? Mm-hmm. And the World Health Organization has research that shows that experiences of stress and symptoms of stress have increased drastically since the pandemic, right? What we know even prior to pandemic is that we live in this constant state of stress, right? This sort of chronic state of stress. And from a neuroscience perspective and what that does to our body in general, our physical and our mental health is very harmful, right? One of the most notable things is this state of emotional reactivity, right? Where we are existing in this constant stress state and we lack the capacity to respond to triggers in a way that's healthy or helpful or, in a way that serves us and our wellness. Triggers will be there. They will always be there throughout the days. And if you're a parent, then you have another layer of trigger, right? If you're a leader in your organization and you're responsible for teams, you have another level of trigger, right?
Worse if you're all of the above.
Right. Worse if you're all the above. We like to call those people parent leaders, right? Naomi, you are one.
That's what I am, a parent leader.
Yes, you are a parent leader because you are a person in position of leadership. You own your own business, right? So you lead a team. But you also parent and you take pride in both of them and you want to do both of them well, right? And so Sky and I are working on a body of work that talks about mindful parenting and leadership, right? That sort of overlap that exists as a parent leader with all the roles and responsibilities that we have. But what happens when we're living in this constant state of stress is that it makes it very difficult for us to think, for us to absorb information, for us to be creative, for us to make decisions effectively. And so when we have this emotional reactivity, what tends to happen is that it starts to affect our relationships with our kids, with our partners, with our teams and with people we love. And it has this overall impact on our wellness. And I don't think people understand the impact of long-term chronic stress. And even if your life was beautiful and rosy and full of rainbows and butterflies, the pandemic has induced us, whether we want to or not, right, in this chronic stress state. So we are dealing with unique challenges of the time, right? And so more and more people are looking for coping mechanisms, coping strategies. And mindfulness has really become very helpful in reducing stress, in improving productivity, in increasing focus. And a lot of people are now looking to it as a way not only to support people going through extreme stress states, like teachers, for example, or frontline workers, but also as replacement for punitive behaviors. So before the pandemic, schools here in the US, in Dade County and Broward, are replacing detention with mindfulness and meditation, for example. So the science is very clear and how helpful it is and how impactful it is. And, you know, mindfulness is something that you have to develop. It's a practice, as Sky said at the beginning, right? But it's something that you can incorporate in your daily life, in things that you do already, you know? When I talk to my friends on a regular basis, and more so in the last couple of weeks, I don't know if it's because I was mindful of preparing and thinking about this show, but my friends, you know, they're talking about, I'm just having way too much stress in my life. I'm just overwhelmed. I have no energy. I feel like my to-do list is everlasting. It never ends. I want to be happier. I want to feel better. I want to feel whole. I want to feel more connected to myself and to people around me. That can very much be an impact of this chronic stress state. So, you know, everybody wants to be happy. Everybody wants to live their best life, but happiness is complicated. And maybe Rochelle Gapier is the perfect person to talk to about this. But like mindfulness, it's easier to feel happy than to define what it is. But what we know is that happiness usually means a calmer, kinder, more peaceful way of living, right? And for me, mindfulness has been that. It's been, Sky likes to call it the fabric softener to life, right? To life's challenges. Like it makes things just feel softer and easier to manage and to move through, you know, sort of the surfboard through the storms. So for us, we try to find easy ways with our clients and with our online programs for people to incorporate mindfulness in their everyday life. We talk about having mindful mornings, right, as a starter to your day, setting the intention, setting the tone for the day. And we have tangible things that you can do, like tangible steps. Taking a tech break. I don't interact with technology at least an hour after I start my day, really, right? Because I know the impact it has on me, and I'm usually getting my daughter ready for school, and I want to meet her with a certain level of groundedness as she gets ready to start her day. I don't want to meet her with my anxious, chaotic state, right? So a part of my morning routine is a grounding practice. Every morning when I open my eyes, it includes prayer and meditation. I set my intentions for the day. I do a breathing exercise, and I feel more equipped to just open my door and walk through and start my day, because our days are so volatile in this house, to be honest, with all that's going on, running a business, supporting mommy, raising a child, and we're all existing under the same roof. I don't know what's going to meet me when I open my door. Right? So, and this is not just characteristic of our household. Life is the busiest it's ever been, and it's the slowest it will ever be. Right? So we have to armor up. We have to figure out a way, right, to ground ourselves and to feel equipped for life's challenges. Because I mean, life is beautiful, but it's also very hard, and sometimes it's rough, right? So
Sam Cooke said, "Change gonna come." We can rest assured that stress will come. And so it's a question of like, what are you doing to arm yourself with a level of resourcefulness, something that you can activate when you need it? And let me just be honest and say that it's not that every stressful moment that I've had during the pandemic, I've gone to the mat and sat down and closed my eyes and found peace and solace, right? Sometimes it's just the recognition. It's having the awareness. And because I've now cultivated this practice of tuning in, I can say, oh, wow, Sky, the signals, and I now know my body graph to know where stress shows up for me in my body and what that looks like and what it feels like. I can tune into those warning signs and say, okay, activate resilience plan. Like, what are we I have now systemically come up with what are my coping mechanisms that work for me. Sometimes I go to Fort Lauderdale Beach and I put in Ryopi, who is a classical pianist, and I dance like I went to Juilliard, and I'm on the beach, me, myself, and I, because I've now come to realize that movement for me is a helpful outlet. And so one of the ways that I'm realizing mindfulness is helpful for me is not just the art of meditation, but the ability to tune into those warning signs, and then have the discernment to understand what do I need, and to be able to give myself the permission to do that without the guilt, and meet myself with compassion when I'm having difficult moments.
Wow. That's
And
excellent.
compassion is a very important part of mindfulness also, because what tends to happen when we are able to develop this mindful muscle and acquire this awareness is that what comes up is not necessarily making us feel warm and cozy. And we're very hard on ourselves and we tend to judge. So when we define what mindfulness is, it's paying attention. That's it. But suspending the judgment that comes with what comes up when you're paying attention. So the non-judgment and the compassion is really, really an important part of it also.
You know, guys, before Catherine goes to our next question, I think that's actually a good question to just even ask our audience, you know, what are some of your current coping mechanisms? What are some of the signs that you see, the red flags, and then what do you do? Do you actually what are your coping mechanisms?
She's asking the audience.
No, but you can still share yours. I mean, Sky shared one of hers, you know, dancing like she's from the school of Juilliard on the beach. And that's fine. What I would love to hear from the audience, but also from you, Rain, what do you do as a coping mechanism for you, you know, when you're starting to feel those triggers?
Yeah, well, Diana said living for today, and that is the art of building a sense of presence, right? Because as I mentioned or alluded to before, in the business of our mind, we are not really focused on the present. We're stuck in the past, or we're focusing and obsessing on the future, and both tendencies trigger anxiety, right? So thinking about the list that didn't get finished and all that it's going to mean for you tomorrow and for the next, that's not helpful, but that's the tendency.
I should just stay up all night. I should just stay up. Am I going to sleep? I don't deserve it.
Forever, Rochelle.
That was Sky version 1, Rochelle. We're now dealing with Sky 2.0, who no longer does that, because I've learned to, and this is one of the things too, I think is very important to mention, the capacity building, right? The increased window of tolerance for all of the stuff, right? So the analogy that I like to give is, if I use a teaspoon of salt and I drop that teaspoon of salt in a mug, the potency of that salt is going to be different than if I drop that teaspoon of salt in a pond or a lake or a pool, right? So mindfulness gives us more capacity. It expands the container. We become the pond, the pool, the lake that can manage the saltiness of life and experience less potency, right? The saltiness is going to come. The waves are going to keep coming. The stress is going to keep coming. The question is, how are you going to manage?
Yes.
Yeah. And, you know, Sky talked about this default state that we're often in, and we know the impact of that, the emotional reactivity, the lack of connection to self and others, sort of sleepwalking through life and falling asleep on ourselves. And so one of the biggest and most important things that you can do and that you can accomplish through mindfulness is what we're talking about. It's that awareness, right? Particularly when you're trying to combat stress and sort of live in a way that feels better for you and that feels more manageable for you, the recognizing is the really important bit. So for me, through practice and through, you know, mindful exercises, my stress lives in my chest. So I know when my anxiety is increasing because I feel a heaviness, like an elephant is sitting on my chest. And so that is my reminder. That's my primer to activate resilience mode, right? To sit and do a breathing exercise. And I am now trained to sort of guide myself through those breathing exercises or through a meditation. We do different things. We can do a body scan. One of our clients yesterday, was it yesterday? The anniversary of George Floyd's murder, woke up feeling very, very heavy, very agitated, and very angry. and she wasn't quite sure. She's like, I just feel some kind of way, right? And through arming her with a body scan, something that she can now do on her own, she was able to gain that awareness that, oh, this is anger. Okay, all right, so I'm feeling agitated. What could be the source of this agitation?
Yeah.
What's happening around us, right? Sort of tuning into your environment. Okay, it's the anniversary of George Floyd's death, and I am now a leader in my organization where people are looking to me to respond and to sort of address this.
Yeah.
And so through that awareness, she was able to say, I need to take a day off. I need to take this day for myself. And she went through the day in a much more manageable way, as opposed to pressing through and showing up for work, knowing that she's in this state, right? So the awareness is really, really important. It's a cornerstone of mindfulness, and it's sort of the starting point, if you ask me. And so through these mindfulness techniques, you are able to develop this state of awareness. It's sort of the antidote to the default state that we tend to live in, right? It's sort of waking up from sleeping on yourself, essentially.
Yeah, so when we think about stress, normally we think about things that affect us immediately in our world, in our environment, in work, home. But the other day you guys made a post, and we really are living in a world that is volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. So how do we now adapt and rise to the challenges of everything that we're facing?
VUCA,
I'm so glad you brought VUCA into the conversation, Catherine, because, so for context, VUCA is an acronym that is used to characterize the conditions of war in Afghanistan, right? And we're now using VUCA to characterize life in the 21st century, life in 2021. So, translation, we as a modern society are living in war-like conditions. That's a simple translation, right? So it's like, oh, okay, so I'm not going crazy. This undercurrent of anxiety that I'm feeling, the undercurrent of fear, the undercurrent of panic that I'm feeling is because of this VUCA experience that we're all having, right? And so mindfulness arms us, again, I would say, it's the capacity building, right? Because of the volatility, because of that uncertainty, because of the complexity, there's so many layers to this thing. It's created really this perfect storm. And I like to say that mindfulness allows us to be the eye of the storm, right? We can silence the noise and find a sense of quiet and peace internally, despite the chaos that is happening around us. We can create that bubble of calm within us, regardless of what's happening, and respond more favorably in a way that's more healthy. And the thing that's interesting, Rain talked about overriding the automatic responses. We know that when we get into a stress state, we default to fear, right? And fear has a very constructive function in terms of helping us to be prepared for the worst that might happen. But it's also, in many cases, unhealthy, right? And can lead to unconstructive ways of responding to situations. Doesn't help that our brain has a negativity bias, right? So when we fall into this reactive mode, we tend to start catastrophizing and thinking about the worst case scenario, which is not helpful. So again, it's catching ourselves and saying, okay, I know I have this way of just like freaking out when small things happen, but I am going to choose again to respond in a different way. It's not about what happens, it's how we respond to what happens. And so we can have more agency in choosing, I want to respond in a different way.
Yeah. Wow.
And Tess says, I love what Tess says, by the way. I don't believe you have to emotionally participate in everything that's happening around us. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
So, what was funny is when we were doing the copy to go with the social media post, Catherine had written parent leaders, and I had said, no, Catherine, Brain deals with the parents and Sky deals with the leaders. And Catherine's like, but I took this from their bio. So I was very happy that you clarified parent leaders. Sorry, Kat, you were right.
Yes. Yes.
But on that note, as we're speaking about parenting,
before you go on though, you asked about coping mechanism. It's like you throw the thing out there. What are you coping?
oh, sorry. So, guys,
and then you're like blah.
I'm so caught up in the conversation. I know Catherine's going to bring all these up on the screen, but a lot of people started sharing their coping mechanisms. So, like Kim W said, turning off my work phone at the end of the work day. Tomorrow is another day. That's something I try to tell myself. Actually, my team and I had lunch today, and that's one of the things we spoke about, that everything is not an emergency, right? So we have to realize that tomorrow, God willing, will come.
Yeah.
Some things we can wait for tomorrow. Alicia says, I'll close my eyes and take a few deep breaths. And, you know, we've been hearing Rain talk about breathing, right? How important that is. We have tried to harness a word versus saying that is analogous to my situation and make an application. Norma says walking, art, journaling, observing a source of running water, river, lake, etc., creating a quiet environment, music. Alicia says sleepwalking through life. That when she said that sleepwalking.
That's a problem. Yeah.
You drape her up. I love it.
Drape her up. Okay, I take deep breaths and journal, do affirmations, and I turn on frequency music at 432. Is that hertz?
Hertz, yeah.
Yeah. We had on one of our first episodes, we had someone speaking all about the importance of frequency music.
Yes.
Tara says breathe and a playlist curated to the frequency I need to be in. Kimberly, enjoying water views, that's me, especially the beach during sunset, me again. Coloring, listening to worship music. Chara again said, so if it's boss mode, then it's a boss playlist. If it's loving mode, then it's a loving self-love music.
I love that.
And then Deborah says meditation, long walks, positive affirmations.
You know that
I love all of those.
Yeah, and I noticed a lot of people said breathing. Rain, you mentioned that heaviness in your chest. I get it in my neck. Like I can't move one side of my neck, and I know it's not a good time. So I called my friend. I called Nana. I said, Mel, I feel this pain in my neck. I don't know. You think I have something? Give me something. No, prescribe something for it. So she said to me, "Are you breathing?" And I took up my phone and call you. Asked me if I breathe. It's like, "Are you breathing?" So I have an app on my phone, the breathing app, but it used to annoy me. And then I was like, "Wow, this 1 minute of breathing is long. A minute is long." But now I actually time it to do it every hour, and it's so fascinating how much we don't breathe through the hour, and how you have to set your mind, and it just refocuses you. But sometimes it just stops you. Like it's okay taking some.
Can I just also say, and so you're into the science, right, Rochelle? So from a scientific perspective, what's happening physiologically, our central nervous system has two modes, right? It has the fight, flight, freeze response mode, like fear is here, let's go. And that's the stress state. And then it has the rest and restore, the parasympathetic nervous system. So the breath has been scientifically proven to activate the parasympathetic nervous system. So we can actually use the breath as a mechanism to ignite either calm or to ignite energy and get into an energetic mode. And so sometimes I can tune in and say, am I feeling stressed? Have I stopped breathing? Am I feeling anxious? Activate calm. You tap into the breath. And the best thing about the breath, it does not require technology. It does not require for you to be in a certain place at a certain time, have on anything in particular. You don't need a mat. The breath is always with us. And in the same way that we can plug our phones in to recharge, we can plug ourselves into our breath and recharge as well.
Yes.
You know, Roshi, as you mentioned that thing about your neck, right? A few years ago, I was under some serious stress, work related, just everything that was happening. And I honestly thought that I swallowed something that was stuck in my throat. And I'm walking around with this feeling for a couple weeks now. And so I finally went to Dr. Bambury, right? And I'm saying, Dr. Bambury, there is something stuck in my throat. You need to get it out. He's like, how long have I had this feeling? I said, for a couple weeks. He said, Naomi, if something was stuck in your throat for a couple weeks, you wouldn't be here to me.
Correct.
You wouldn't be here. So basically, he diagnosed me with something called globus hyperticus, and it's literally the feeling of something being stuck in your, lodged in your throat that's caused by stress. So literally, I would swallow, and I would feel like there is this lump just in my throat, and there's nothing there. It's your mind. So that's one of my triggers. So whenever I start feeling like something could be in my throat, I know I need to stop whatever I'm doing, go to the beach, lie down, whatever it is, to just come right back down. So that's actually my trigger, this feeling that something is lodged here, which was...
That's powerful.
Great.
That's awareness. That's awareness.
Pain on the shoulder, lodging in the throat. Our issues live in our tissues.
Wow.
Right?
Our issues live in our tissues. And we have started to incorporate this level of awareness with Noah. She just turned 8. And she knows that her anxiety shows up for her in her throat, similarly to you, Naomi. She feels like she can't breathe.
We're twins, remember? May 15th.
You're twins. You're twins. So, instead of getting anxious about the anxiety that is showing up and that's present, she knows that that's an activator to now fall back into your breath, right? And we are teaching her to breathe effectively, because we usually have a very shallow way of breathing, especially when you're in a state of stress, right? Rapid, shallow breathing as this usual response to stress. And so to feel calm, we usually reverse the breathing. We take longer, slower, deeper breaths to, again, as Sky said, calm our parasympathetic nervous system. And we have ways, techniques to teach kids how to breathe effectively, diaphragm breathing and that sort of thing, to change her emotional state. So again, the awareness of what stress and anxiety looks like in your body and how it shows up is really important. And then knowing what to activate as your support, as your tool, as your strategy. And you practice. Sky likes to say, what you practice on the mat is what you reach for in real life when the anxiety holds on to you. Yeah.
It's funny, as you're talking about slow breathe, like I checked myself immediately, like, okay.
Yeah, because listen, it's something that we do automatically, right? Yeah, we don't think about it. We don't have to activate it. It's this automatic process that happens. And so we're not present in how we breathe, right? Most times we're actually holding our breath if you bring an awareness to it, right? So it's really helpful, very simple, and as Sky says, really easy to access. You don't need anything. You have it with you at all times. We just finished an online program where we walked people through the main components of mindfulness, and breathing was the first sort of cornerstone week, right? Like, let us teach you how to unlock this power. Like this power that you have inside of you, that we want to teach you how to effectively use it, that will change your life, that will legitimately transform your life and help you to feel like you are armed, right? That you have this, and it's your refuge. Like, being a mindful parent and being a mindfulness practitioner doesn't mean that I don't experience stress. We are in the depths of one of the most stressful situations, journeying with our mother as she fights for her life. I mean, like, that's the epitome, right, of a stressful situation. But we have the tools. We have the tools, and we're reminded of that. And that gives us solace and comfort, and we teach more.
I think we're having an internet connectivity issue, Stace, but I was just going to say that part of being resilient is feeling resourced, is feeling that no matter what happens, I have what I need, right? And so there is this reassurance, feeling like I have this skill, I have these gifts, I have these superpowers, that regardless, it's like, all right, life, bring it, because I'm armed and ready. I have my toolkit, I have my armor, I have my bulletproof vest, let's go,
Yeah. Noah had a really important performance this week. Her class did end of year school play, and she was chosen to be the narrator. I'm so proud of her. Like, proud mom over here, big deal. But she came to me with her level of developed awareness and she said, Mommy, I'm really worried about the play this week. And I said, well, let's talk about it. Let's come up with a game plan, right? So when you're feeling this lump in your throat, which we know is anxiety, and this is a part of the emotional intelligence, acknowledge that anxiety and our feelings and our emotions in general are here to give us a message. Like, this is a big deal, right? And we name the emotion. So we call anxiety Anxious Annie, right? We're like, Anxious Annie is here. Like, hey, Anxious Annie, I know you're here to tell me something big. I got the message. You can leave now. And then, like have that conversation in your mind. Naming is taming, right? So when you name, Mommy, I'm feeling really worried. I'm really anxious about this. And, you know, she's 8, right? So it's something that we can all develop. It's something that we can all practice. If you can breathe as we're all breathing, you can develop this skill of mindful breathing, right?
Yeah.
So, and it's a game changer. I mean, we did an interview for the Jamaican Gleaner last week with a friend of mine, Deborah Edwards, who is now a writer for the Gleaner. I'm so proud of her. And one of the ladies, yes, one of the things that came out in the conversation is one of the young ladies she interviewed said, you know, I really started to research successful habits, the habits of successful people. And she said, I noticed this mindfulness thing is a thing. Like Oprah Winfrey and Richard Branson and all these people who are revered and who are successful, they get it. Like, they got the memo. They have their toolkit. It doesn't mean that they don't experience stress, right? But they have the armor that they need to maneuver life in a way that allows them to live in a state of well-being despite the stress. Stress is normal, and some amount of stress is a part of the human experience. We're going to experience stress, right? But this chronic stress state is a different scenario. It has a different implication, and so we have to armor up, like, right? That's the difference between sinking or swimming, surviving or thriving, right? So it's a must.
So, you know, Rain, I'm glad that you touched on some of the things that you've been doing with Noah, right? Who's just 8 years old. And as a parent, you know that in particular this year has been super interesting with homeschooling as well as working from home, and having to be a lot more physically and emotionally available for our children than we were in the past, right? Because we're all here in the same space all the time.
Yeah. The collapsing of the boundaries, the physical
collapsing of the boundaries. And I mean, when we were backstage, you were talking about even, you know, for Noah's birthday, because she's so aware now as well about, you know, wellness as well, you know, what you did for her birthday, spa day, all those kind of things, and how much she appreciated it. It wasn't just like a party with her friends, but it was something for her to just relax and enjoy. What are some of the tips that you would give or recommend to our audience that, you know, we're all navigating this space? I mean, my son's 15, and as much as he's not as needy as maybe a younger child, it's still a different dynamic with us being here all the time and the easy access every minute in the middle of my work day, or it's a lot. And
yeah, it is.
How do we help them to navigate this space?
How much time do you have? I mean,
the short version, right? So whatever these ladies are offering in the long version,
they need to pay for the long version.
We need a whole different conversation.
I feel it. You know what's funny? I remember I had to go find this book when we were backstage. I heard Oprah talking about it on one of her podcasts, The Conscious Parent, Transforming Ourselves, Empowering Our Children. And I remember I started reading it way before this panorama. And I stopped, but I realized that maybe I need to pick it back up and finish it now. So this is going to be a tool for me, but what are some of the things that you can recommend that wouldn't take over the entire show to help us navigate this unusual space that we're in?
Yeah, we definitely need to do a follow-up on conscious mindful parenting. Can we just put that seed out there because it's a new way, it's a calmer way, it's a way that I have employed and that has made a tremendous difference in my parenting journey. As I said on the onset of the show, parenting has been or was very difficult for me. Like I was not managing very well. And it was something that I understood the gravity of. And that was a part of the overwhelm that I was feeling. Like this is a really big deal. And I feel like I'm failing. So I need to figure it out. Right. So I'll just put that in the parking lot. But I think, you know, having a sense of attuned social and emotional development, like making that a priority and a focus for ourselves and for our children, and providing a safe space for them to have the conversations that are necessary. So to contextualize that, if I hadn't developed a safe space for Noah to feel that she can come and communicate to me about her thoughts, her feelings, and what she's experiencing, she would have struggled with that experience all on her own, right? And she would have had to have figured out how to maneuver it by herself. And she doesn't need to, but it requires being intentional about doing certain things. And we can talk more about that. For me, it's really important as I navigate all of what I'm navigating under one roof to establish boundaries, right? So even before, from Noah was, I don't know, how old is this, 5? She knows that if the door is locked, you knock. But also, if her door is closed, I knock also, right? And it goes back to the way I parent, but you can't expect a behavior of your child and not embody the same behavior, right? So it's a very different approach to parenting in general. What I can say is really pay attention to establishing emotional intelligence with your children so that they feel comfortable expressing and communicating how they're feeling, what they're experiencing, so that you can help them feel more supported. Children are human beings. They're going through it just like we are. And what's concerning for me is, unlike adults, they don't have the tools and skills, and they lack the emotional intelligence oftentimes, unless you're deliberate, right? To come and communicate. So oftentimes they're really trying to maneuver some really big, difficult emotions on their own. And so for me, I believe that emotional development is a really important part of living well, right? It's just as important as your physical health, like your emotional and mental health, super, super important. So just tune into your kids, interact with them more mindfully, give them the time and space that they really need. So when you're interacting with your child, you know, put away the distractions, leave the phone in the room. We spend on an average, and this was a Pew Research study, about 35 minutes a day of quality time with our children. That's not a lot of time. So they need to feel like, you know, the number one need in a human being is a sense of safety and security. Like, that's it, right? Feeling loved falls under that umbrella. All the other things that we need fall under that umbrella. Children need to feel safe and secure, and they need to know that their support system is there. So you need to be in tune with your children and really just focus on their emotional development and create a safe space for them to come and open up and talk with you about what they're going through. No matter how young. I have a friend who has a 3-year-old son, and I've been coaching her unofficially. She's my friend. So, you know, she calls me and she has access to me, and she's like, I don't know what to do. And she has started to develop emotional intelligence with her son. And she's like, I cannot tell you, he's a different child. And he's 3 years old.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's never too early, but it's never too late. If you have a 17-year-old and you're thinking, Lord, me mash up his life, it's not. It's never too early and it's never too late. I'll leave with that. Yeah.
Thank you, Rain.
You're so welcome.
Yeah, we're definitely going to need that follow-up on the conscious parenting, because I read something recently that with your children, the moment that you're having now is the last time they're going to be this age. And you know, the time, you always hear people about the time fly. I say parents have talked about time fly too much. And then you become a parent and the time just goes like that. And recently I have been paying just more attention. Because Christian is like, how old is he now, Kat? Like 19 months.
Yeah. Almost 2, Rochelle.
Mhm.
Wow.
Hips
Yep.
to drive me around.
Wow.
But the thing about it is just I was on the computer the other night. So he's playing and I'm sitting on the ground with him typing. And he comes and sits in my lap and starts typing.
Type in.
And he turns and looks at me like, everybody can type in here since all are we busy.
Right.
And I put down the laptop and he started laughing. And I'm like, I don't know what's going through your head, but it was just, that mindfulness, just that trigger for
Being
me.
present. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
this moment. Everything
Yeah.
that's happening, it will be fine, but
It
I
will be
don't
fine.
need this moment. I can just
No.
enjoy this moment.
Well, I commend you because number one, you chose to choose your distraction,
Yeah.
right? Like you could have in that moment tried to come to my Christian, put him back on the couch and try to keep
Yeah.
decided I can either try to keep doing this or I can choose to put the laptop down and give my attention to him. Second thing to note is the quality of presence that you are therefore able to give him because you made that choice mindfully.
Yes.
And what a difference! What a difference! Like, why try to do both things at the same time? Make
Yes.
a choice, right? And
Yeah.
we have that moment to moment choice every single day of our lives. What distraction are we going to give our attention to? And what difference is it going to make? The Harvard Business Review did a study on this, and they showed that there was a correlation between giving in to the distraction and the level of stress and overwhelm and frustration that happens. So why would we choose to exist in a reality that creates more stress in an already stressful environment?
Mhm.
Yeah. Now is the time to be present with ourselves and our children and our loved ones more than ever before, right? So, when Naomi and I were talking earlier, she said, "Did you get my email?" And I was like, "I've been in a meeting. I try not to multitask." So my plan was to respond after my meeting because I'm choosing intentionally
My email
to do
don't sound like that. Rain.
no, that's the dramatics. I'm doing that for the drama, Naomi. Come
For the
on.
impact tonight.
Yeah. But it's an aversion from our autopilot defaults. Like multitasking is revered. I mean, it's listed on most job applications, right? But it's choosing a different pathway. Yeah,
And FYI, the Stanford research study proved that multitasking is actually not effective. So can we just cut it right now?
Yeah. And
but it was like sexy, multitasking. Like if you could do all of these things at one time and stuff, like it was like nothing was going on for you. And then all of a sudden we all started doing it, and then we just weren't doing anything because you ended up not doing
or not doing anything well.
Yes.
That's right.
more.
And we actually don't get as much done because when we try to task switch, we lose time in the in between. So we're actually getting less done than we actually think.
Yes.
There's a whole separate conversation with multitasking.
Yeah, that's why people talk about time blocking instead, where you block time for specific tasks, and when it's done, you move on to the next one.
And having the discernment of actually prioritizing what's important.
Exactly.
And choose, oh crap, I have 6 different things. What's actually most important? We can tune into that wisdom as well.
Yep. One thing.
One thing.
Yeah.
One thing. Best book ever.
One thing at a time. One thing. Yeah, I love it. Well, we have some more follow-ups to do for sure. I mean, they're like 2 other shows out of this conversation. Lots more to talk about.
We could do a whole series.
I would
Let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it.
For our online program, and you get the series that way.
Yeah. So I mean, definitely. As we're wrapping up, I know that we're gonna want to know where our audience can find you and what's happening. I get the Sunday Reset emails, so we can definitely talk about that. Actually, how can our audience find you?
Not
What
yet.
are
We're
you
not
doing?
wrapping up yet.
Oh, we're not? Okay,
No.
well, you're ready. Kathy, I'll take your lead.
Yeah. We'll take
Over
your
to
lead.
you.
Over to you, Rashi.
Alicia says a mini series for sure.
Carefree.
All right.
But recently posted, who posted? Was it you, Rain, that had posted about languishing?
Mm.
I think it was Sky.
It was on our
Posted.
Transcend page. It was on our
And let me tell you, so then I saw the post about languishing, and I have to go read too. So I got download the article. I read what you had set out, and then I downloaded the article, and I was like, finally, there is a name for this thing, not dummy. There is in fact a name, and they're like other people experiencing this languishing.
Yes.
This place
Yeah.
of not really dummy, but all is not well. And I
Yeah.
know all is not well. This
Yeah.
and it's called the neglected middle child. Tell us about this language, please.
Mhm.
Let me first ask you a question, Rochelle. What difference did it make for you having the ability to name it?
You know what? I could talk about it.
Yes.
Yes, I could name it. And Ray, I think you said name it, you can tame it.
That's right.
Naming is taming.
That's right. That's right. And so to speak power to the value of emotional literacy, right?
Yeah.
Having the emotional vocabulary to be able to put a name to something and say, that's what it is. It's languishing.
Yes.
Right? So from a brain science perspective, one of the triggers that we struggle with as humans is lack of certainty. That's why VUCA is so difficult for us to manage, because we want a sense of certainty. And when we can name something, we feel more certain because we know what it is. And now it becomes a known entity that we now can figure out how we're going to deal with it. Right?
Yes.
So I think of it on a spectrum. When you think about the human experience, right? Traditional psychology looks at what's wrong with us, right? We're depressed, we have anxiety. There are things that are south of the neutral experience as a human. And then human flourishing is the field of positive psychology, which I also studied and understand. What does it mean to be functioning as a human above neutral, right? North of neutral. Languishing is kind of this in-between space of like, I don't think I'm depressed, but I kind of feel a little messed, right? Like I'm swimming in this space of no man's land and I'm not really sure where I stand right now. And then how do I pull myself above it? And it's really interesting because we know that emotions are energy in motion, right? And so this undercurrent of stress, anxiety, overwhelm, fear that we're all swimming in has become the emotional soup of our society. So nothing might not be wrong with you, but your neighbor, the people that you work with, your colleagues, something might be wrong. They might have lost a family member to COVID, or something devastating is happening either in or around your network. So we're swimming in this soup of emotional devastation. And so we start feeling like, but is something wrong? Like, I'm not really sure what's happening. That is really what is at play. And I think Adam Grant, he is just a genius when it comes to these things. And he wrote that article in Time that just helps us to put a name to what so many of us are experiencing. Rain has a friend who is actually our attorney for Transcend. And she says, my life is not vastly different. I've always worked from home. The kids have always, nothing is vastly different. But I just don't feel good. I just don't feel good. Languishing, that's what it is. Languishing, mess.
And the social contagion, right? Like the messy
emotional
feelings.
soup. Yep.
Yeah.
That's why we have to be so conscious as well, right? About the people that we spend our time with. And one of the exercises is closing our eyes and thinking about the 5 to 10 people that we interact with on a weekly basis or a daily basis. And as each face enters your mind, what's the physiological reaction that your body has? Tune into that. Tune into that, right?
I'm going to do that right after the show.
Because people that we interact with, we have an energetic exchange with. And so we have to do an evaluation. We have to do a gut check with ourselves to say, are the people that I'm hanging out with fueling me with energy or sucking my energy? And that's an exercise that will tell you. You bring their face to mind and automatically you'll notice a physiological reaction.
Lord, I'm trying not to do that while we're on the show. It's like I'm seeing the face and I can feel my body literally reacting while I'm thinking about it. And I'm trying to have a neutral face.
Listen, it sometimes brings up a harsh reality, Naomi, and then you have to decide, like, okay, what do I do with this information? But at least you have the information.
Awesome.
You have the okay, less of you.
Not so much access to me, right? Sometimes you can easily change or shift the situation. Sometimes it's someone who exists in your particular space, right? Like a team member. And so you have to figure out how to manage your access.
Or a family member. Yeah.
Or a family member. Or a family member. And so, you sometimes when you're leveling up and you're really committed to living your best life, you have to make some very difficult choices and changes. And it reminds you how committed you are to the goals that you have and to really, making those difficult changes sometimes.
And it goes back to the boundaries that you talked about earlier, really setting boundaries. We love to talk about our circle of genius and Emerge. And it really boils down to who are the people that you're surrounding yourself with, who are the people that you're allowing to influence your life.
Absolutely.
And pour into that energy or take away from that energy.
Yeah. And influence is one thing. Yeah. Influence is something to focus on, but also who has access to you and how much access do they have to you, right?
Yeah. And when do they have access to you?
And when, the boundaries.
Even the two of us, right? We're living in the same home. We're working. We're running a business together. We have life stuff to figure out. We have work stuff to figure out. We have personal stuff. I mean, Rain is my person. I go to her about everything that I'm experiencing. And we now have this system where I ask her, you can take something, like, can you take me coming to you with something right now? And she'll say, give me 5 minutes. We have now established a shorthand, a language for asking each other, can you take on something right now? Like, do you have the capacity to deal with my emergency right now?
Do you have the capacity?
Wow.
Yeah. So in Jamaican terms, we say you can take something and it's either yes or no or in 5 minutes, right? Like the boundaries are really super important.
Or tomorrow.
And Sky is an active thinker. Like she likes to talk it out and think it through. I process internally. So even the awareness of how we think and process differently. Last night, at a certain time, I was done. And Sky wanted to talk through something with me. And I said, Lotus is closed. I'm going upstairs. Yeah. We can talk about this on Monday when we have our CEO meeting. And if it's an emergency, we can talk tomorrow, girl. But and she's like, all right.
I had a similar experience just today where I should have had a meeting with a colleague at about 5:36. And to be honest, my zone of genius is between 6 a.m., maybe 3 p.m., right? But between 2:30, I'm crashing because I'm up from 4:30 in the morning.
Wow.
So I had said to her that, honestly, I don't really function well after 5. And she graciously moved the meeting to tomorrow morning. So you really have to know yourself as well in order to create those boundaries. Because I know that after a certain time, I'm just not able to give my best self. And I will hear, but I'm not retaining.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
especially work-related stuff. So
mindfulness has been really powerful in helping me to get refamiliar with myself and to tune into myself. And it has provided an opportunity for me to really get a sense of truth knowing, like tuning into yourself in a way that you haven't before. gaining clarity about what your threshold is, what your boundaries are, having questions answered that you've never considered before, right? And what I'm finding is happening is I'm feeling more and more like myself, knowing what I need, what I want, what my goals are, feeling like I'm living a more authentic version of my life, and not just living in that autopilot default mode that, you know, we existed in before we really started to develop a mindfulness practice. And so it goes back to that awareness and that tuning in, that connecting to self, right? That mindfulness has allowed me to do. Or to create or to develop.
I salute you, Naomi. I salute you. That was a very difficult practice for me because being a consultant, again, right, overachieving perfectionist, like saying no, we had paying us a premium dollar to say yes always. So learning to say no has become a practice for me. And I'll just share that dealing with mommy's situation has been really difficult for me personally because for some reason, Naomi, I was convinced that daddy would go first, that mommy would die first, and daddy would be here to support me through her passing. So now that she's approaching her end of life, I've been encountering a lot of anger that he's not here. Why aren't you here? He's due to be here. And let me tell you, that anger showed up for me ragingly about 2 weeks ago. And I had this all-day workshop, and I just felt like I couldn't cross it. In all honesty, and if truth telling, I knew in the same way that you knew you couldn't show up for your friend at 5:30, I knew that I could not show up for these leaders, and I could not hold space for them in the way that would honor them. And I also knew that I had co-facilitators who could hold down the fort. And so I had to make that decision to say, do I show up or do I honor my experience right now in this very difficult moment and just take the day off? It was a very difficult decision for me, but one, the insight, the emotional intelligence to name what I was experiencing, being able to attribute it to what is happening. And then have the courage to say, I'm going to make this choice. And what happened? The negativity bias kicked in. And I said to Rain, I'm like, they're going to think I'm irresponsible. They're going to think I'm unprofessional. They're going to think all these things about me. And oh my gosh, what is this going to mean? And maybe they're not going to hire me for the next one. And blah, 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 blah. Right? And I just had to quiet the noise and say, today I'm choosing to honor me. And that's just it. And insert compassion, and I was able to support myself and be like, well, this is really difficult, but I can be okay with not being okay and just move through this.
Wow, I feel like the next time that I need like a mental break, maybe that's the email I need to say to my clients. Today, I'm choosing to honor me. Please direct all emails to.
Please do not send out that email
so that I can serve you better.
Listen, what it was, Naomi, there's a stigma, right? Because we are now wired to believe that we have to always be on and we have to
be on.
Go up. And I just feel very strongly that we need to normalize our humanness.
Yes.
Right? And just normalize that life is particularly challenging right now and we are humans. And that we need to give ourselves that permission to just be human. We're not robots. And if that means that we have to reschedule, then we have to reschedule. End of the world.
Yeah.
And that permission is probably like one of the hardest things, especially for overachievers to cross.
Yeah.
So, I mean, my core work is law. And I'm just like, well, the people in legal troubles cannot stop because me need a day off. And then you start talking yourself into, you are currently like have all of this on your plate. You need to just stop for a moment. And that permission is something I have had to talk myself into, that you cannot serve at the capacity that you need to if you are not 100%. And it's so funny that just stopping to say, I will get back to you on this point tomorrow morning. I'm not going to be working today. I'll get just setting the expectations. So you're not like wondering, okay, while I'm taking this day off, they're trying to find me, they're trying to eat me. They
And
don't.
so you don't even get to appreciate the day off because your brain is like thinking about everything that's happening because you took this time off.
It's something it's a judgment that we judge our own, because we are saying, how dare you take a day off? How dare you take a day off? You work for yourself. You got to take a day off. People that work for them say, don't take no day off. You need to work, 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 work. And people are waiting on you. And then you start judging yourself. And I mean, the other day I called my mother and she loved to talk about this breathing thing too. I'm like, guys, what? Do you think I don't breathe? I breathe. I breathe all day long. That's why I'm here. She's like, you need to stop. Just stop. Take today. She said, me and your boss today. You.
All right. Yes, me. Yes. I love it.
And then the thing is that she's like, all of these things that you've made up in your head that will happen.
Yeah.
None of these things. She's like,
You don't have to believe them.
Yes.
You don't have to believe them.
And they
We
might feel real, but they're not always true.
Exactly. And the thing too is that we don't have conversations with high achievers and high performers. We say, oh, you are lauded for being a high performer. And the more you're performing well is the more you stress yourself out to keep at that level. And you think it means, I cannot be kind to myself. I cannot stop for a moment.
You have to be superhuman. You have to be Wonder Woman all the time.
Exactly.
Listen,
who are high achievers, that it's okay, you guys.
Rochelle reminds me of Sky Said Sky 1.0. I'm going to reference that person because we would go on vacation and I would say to Sky, sis, you're stressing me out. Like, really and truly, we're on vacation and you're ruining my vacation. Like, you need to like really cut it out. I'm like, honestly, right? I've been able to strike
where we were. She was
like,
like,
that carnival.
Carnival, can you stop working?
And she stressed me out. I said, girl, I'm here to live and enjoy my carnival. Try don't stress me out.
I've done that. I've been chipping down the road. And I'm like, guys, wait on me. Let me just take this call quickly.
No, but it's an intentionality that you're bringing to living in a way that better serves you, right? And mindfulness can be difficult because it's not the way we exist normally, right? It's very counter to what we're advocating for. So it can be challenging. And sometimes you fall off and you have to jump back on, right? We catch ourselves often where, Noah will say to me, Mommy, you need to breathe. And I'm like, thank you for my reminder, and not jumping on her for being a mirror for falling off, but saying, thank you for reminding me because we're human and we forget things. So a part of it is normalizing, as Sky is saying, and really striking boundaries and forcing people to respect your boundaries. I mean, our team that we work with who support us, we preach this lifestyle and we encourage it in them as well. Like,
I love it. Guys, can you see us? Relaxed hustle. Can we have a relaxed hustle culture? And not the hustle and bustle culture?
We're here for
Can we normalize striving and success, but in a relaxed
very
way that serves us? Yes.
With calm and ease. And it actually has now become, it's one of our core values, right? So when we're prioritizing and strategizing for the week and something comes up and I'm like, #relaxed hustle. And it's become like a guiding principle in how we make decisions. Like we're going to choose relaxed hustle every time.
Yes. Love that.
Yeah.
Wow, I have so many notes. I've been taking notes on my phone.
Same, guys. Same.
I love it.
We have notes for days.
No, we have notes.
Like, share your golden nugget. Like, what's your favorite golden nugget?
Let me tell you, man.
Oh, I have too many.
And I know
the practice
you're
of paying
still here.
attention without judgment.
I liked the salt in the cup
Okay.
versus
I like paying attention with intention.
Yeah.
That was. And I also wrote down, I mean, this wasn't a nugget, but it was something to remember that happiness is complicated.
Yes.
I thought that was very important.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and
mindfulness.
choose to respond in a different way. You
Mhm.
know, that
And I
was
think I like mindfulness, the fabric softener of life.
Yes.
yeah,
Guys,
but
I have a lot. I have a lot.
without judgment was also extremely important.
Wow.
And
And
today I choose to honor me.
I think one of the
Today
things too was that you guys spoke about not just your ability to practice mindfulness, but when you also fall off the wagon. And it is important because we like to approach life that you're either broken or you're a fixed person. Not
Yes.
that you have broken moments and
Yes.
people have weak moments and weak people have strong moments, because sometimes we're strong and sometimes we're weak, but we put these definitions on people and life and how you should be. So because of that, we are afraid to stop, we are afraid to be present, we are afraid to be mindful. And I thought it was just so important. And for me, and wanting to only talk nice, only talk
Thank you.
Let me just say, the one thing that's constant is that we are human.
Yes.
We are perfectly imperfect, right?
Yes.
That comes with the full range of the human experience, good, bad, indifferent, all of the above. And we can make space for it. And one of the things that we actually train and practice in mindfulness is being with discomfort, whether it's a physical sensation or an emotion that's uncomfortable. We can learn to be with that discomfort. And so as we practice and train that in meditation, when moments are challenging and difficult, we already know that we've trained that muscle so we can activate that resourcefulness, right? So
Yes.
Yeah, we have a tendency to want to fix things and to eradicate the discomfort. Like, I'm feeling anxious and this is bad, right? The naming of the emotions. It's okay to sit with the anxiety and to tune into that feeling and that sensation and get the message and the intelligence that that emotion is here to give you. Like, there's nothing wrong with tuning in, right? Instead of trying to get rid of it. And that creates a perpetual cycle of, like Sky said, being anxious about being anxious, which happens to us so often, you know? And it's
'cause
more
it was-
likely.
Yeah, I was having an anxious Annie moment recently. Like, and I was just like, I just couldn't understand it. When me look down on my finger them, or my finger them, they chippy. Me did have to stop and go do my nails. You stay good. You feel anxious. You let me don't.
Yeah.
No.
I'm not that structure with my hair. If my hair don't stay good, I just have a bad day. I can't function.
And that's why you do have to just be in who you are too, and what matters to you, and what your triggers are. And some are big things, and some are little things like chippy nail.
I'm with you on the chippy though, Rochelle.
Oh God.
So we asked our viewers what are some of their takeaways, overriding our natural responses to situations, a way of training our mind to pay attention with curiosity and without judgment. Well, Teresa,
Auntie Chick says this needs to be a series.
on that note, tell us, where can people find you? What are some of the services that people can offer, that you offer to people? No. Are you offering coaching? No. Are you offering mindfulness sessions? No. Tell us how we can find you and what people can get.
So number one, at transcend.tribe, we have posts every single day with resources, tips, perspectives, all the goodies. You can go on our website, transcendglobal.org, and check us out there. We have a mindfulness starter kit, a free mindfulness starter kit. If you're interested in learning, so okay, this is all great, but how do I do this?
I'm downloading right now.
You can download the mindfulness starter kit, and then you can have access to free meditations that we have on our YouTube channel. So that's all free. You don't have to pay anything for any of that. Naomi gets our Sunday reset, which is specifically for every single Sunday, right? And then in terms of our programs, we have a meditation series that's coming up that will teach you the 5 powers of mindfulness and skill building around those 5 powers. Powers of the breath. What does it mean to master your emotion? What does it mean to master your mind? How do I access compassion? and love myself in a kinder, softer way. Right. And then in September, we'll launch our Empowered program. But for sure, if you're not following us on Instagram, definitely check us out and subscribe to the YouTube channel, baby.
What's the YouTube?
You can find the link in our bio. That's the easiest way to find it. Yeah. Our bio on Instagram.
Love it.
I would like to just add with a closing thought. I think we are normalizing the conversation around mindfulness, and we believe, wholeheartedly, Sky and I, the power that mindfulness brings, we live it. This is something that we're not just researching and studying and getting certified in. This is something that we have integrated in our own lives, and it's the easiest way that I can recommend that you sort of practice mindfulness in that moment of intense sort of big emotional state is to bring an attention and a focus to your breathing. So even for 1 or 2 minutes to just center on your breathing. And again, we have meditations and practices to help walk you through it free on YouTube. Sky has a 10-minute overwhelm meditation that you can find on YouTube. But even if you do not know how to sit and meditate or how to do a mindful breathing exercise or a body scan or a rain practice, you can sit with your feet on the floor, put your cell phone down, move away from your computer, and just focus on your breathing for 1 minute to 2 minutes. Because what you're doing is you are not only inviting a sense of calm and well-being to your body, but again, from a neuroscience perspective, you are calming your parasympathetic nervous system, right? Which is sort of responsible for stressors. So that would be my takeaway. Just breathe intentionally, pay attention to your breathing, and you will start to see and feel the difference with just a few minutes, really. And again, accessible anytime, anywhere. You don't need anything, right?
Yeah. And so we want to close with Susie's note. You two sisters are phenomenal and strong individuals. You both can change people's mindset to think positively in all aspects of life. Keep up the good work, and we all applaud you both immensely.
Yes, this was an amazing show, guys.
Thank you, ladies.
So many amazing takeaways, and the clarity on what mindfulness is and why it is so relevant and so important and so impactful, especially now more than ever. So we really appreciate you guys taking the time to share with us, to expand our mindsets, and to really give our community something to really think about, right?
I wasn't seeing the relax sign all this time.
You were what?
We saw it earlier.
Relax. We need more, and it was cut off the whole time.
I cannot.
It's fine. But we see it now. I know we went above our scheduled time, but it was so worth it. As you said, we could have gone on and on and on and on, because there's so many different areas within this space that we could really explore. And we look forward to having the opportunity to have you both on our live platform when we go back to our new normal.
Yes.
But this was awesome. So it's really awesome.
Thank you. I want to just add one more thing. I feel moved to do this. I don't know who this is for, but if as a parent leader you do nothing else, try to establish sort of the corner end stones to your day. So like starting with an intentional morning routine and closing and ending the day with a wind down sort of routine, right? And we feel very strongly about incorporating a contemplative practice in your routine. So it can be prayer, it can be meditation, it can be a mindfulness activity, but you're really being intentional, right? That word that we keep coming back to, about setting the tone and how you start the day and the trajectory of your day. And then again, winding down, because we have 60 to 90,000 thoughts a day, and most of them are processed at the end of our day, right? We're rehashing the day, we're going over our list, we're figuring out the plan. So you need to come up with a way to wind down, and for our kids also. So we have a bedtime routine, and it's non-negotiable. It takes about an hour. That's what I've created for Noah. That's our bonding time also, to spend time as mommy and daughter. And it's really effective and very helpful. So I would encourage you all, create a mindful morning routine and create some sort of mindful end of the day routine. For us, it involves music, it involves movement. I have a Morning Mojo playlist that I chose very intentionally, very strategically, and we play that, Noah and I, as we get ready for the day, and we play it in the car. And it's really powerful. We could talk about the power of music all day and movement, right?
Yes.
But it's what works for you. But again, bringing intention to the way you live in your life, right? And bringing that intention to the bookends of your day.
The bookends of your day. I love that.
Thank you. This for me, Rain. Thanks. For me.
I felt you, Rochelle.
Yeah, it was all of us. I love the bookends of your day.
Yeah, good.
Thank you for that last little nugget.
Yeah.
You're
This was
welcome.
wonderful.
Thank you for having us. Thank you
Nice,
for having us.
nice.
You ladies are doing such an amazing job. Your platform is really reaching and touching and making an impact. So kudos to you and thank you for having us. We've really been excited all day. Like,
Thank you. From picking cool songs to being on Emerge.
I mean, look at us just living a fabulous life.
Please send us the information for when your programs are going to start and when you're going to launch so that we can share it with our emergers because
We'll do. We just ended a cohort and I mean, fantastic.
We actually haven't done a newsletter in a while, and I feel like we need to do a newsletter just with the gems from this particular episode to share with our audience. So we'll definitely include the information that you shared, the website, all of that stuff in it, because this was a really powerful episode. So thank you guys.
Thank you, ladies.
You are so welcome.
Well, we can do it when we come off live or whatever, but I want a picture with you guys.
Yeah.
No, so we're going to take you back to our green room for a minute, and we're just going to wrap up in 1 minute, and we'll see you backstage. So don't leave.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us. This was amazing. And like Nye said, we're going to follow up with a newsletter. And you get to follow us on all of our platforms at Ready to Emerge. We will be here next week, Wednesday, same time, 8 o'clock Jamaica time, 9 o'clock for those of us that are not in Jamaica. And
if you're not on our newsletter, how do they join our newsletter? Send us an email at readytoemergenow@gmail.com, and we'll add you to our newsletter subscription.
Or you can go to our website and subscribe.
Yeah.
Yes. readytoemergenow.com. So thanks, everybody, and we'll see you again next week.
Guys, I see you, Gabby, my sister.
Guys, share this episode with your friends and your family members that you think. I think anybody could benefit from this particular episode. I mean, you can benefit from all Detour Essential episodes.
So don't keep it to yourself.
This one needs to be, like Rochelle said, needs crowd.
Yeah.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.